Hey guys, today we're gonna talk about bans and matchups for Vamana, gods that he's good against and gods that he isn't necessarily good against. So on the bottom left, you can see my bans. I've got Nemesis, Apollo, Bellona, Osiris, and I'm going to pick Ullr. On the bottom right, his bans are Hebo, Bakasura, Kali, Danzaburo, and Set. So there are certain gods that hard counter Vamana. A hard counter is a god that simply straight up beats Vamana, or he finds it extremely hard to beat. So a hard counter I would consider for Vamana would be Nemesis. She's literally built to take down tanks. Her kit, her passive, and her ult. So her ultimate steals protections, and her passive is basically like a stonecutter, where she reduces a person's protections more she basic attacks. So her literal base kit is built to take down tanks. All she has to do is build perhaps concise, a lot more attack speed and just some defense, and she'll out DPS you. So I consider Nemesis a hard counter for Vamana. The only way you'd beat a Nemesis is by building health, some defense, and a lot of damage. But even then, it's still quite tough. So you can still beat Nemesis, but it'll take somebody playing as Nemesis a lot less skill to beat you than it would most other gods. So Nemesis I would consider a hard counter. I would also consider Bellona a hard counter. Bellona used to be good just early game against Vamana, but late game you were able to beat her. However, with Death Toll, what happens is her basic attacks turns into AoEs when she uses an ability. So she has that hammer that so every time she uses an ability, her basic attacks turns into AoEs, and that's great for Death Toll because that means she can heal loads. She can bring back loads of mana by hitting the wave and you by using her basic attacks. So she's extremely good against you early game and late game because of Death's Embrace and Death's Toll. So Bellona I would consider a counter. You can still beat Bellonas, but like I mentioned, it will take a Bellona player a lot less skill to beat you than it would another god.
Please excuse me.
And then you have some broken gods on Duel. So right now I consider Osiris completely broken. He isn't specifically a hard counter, but he is literally almost unbeatable on Duel. Literally Osiris, it takes almost no skill for an Osiris player to beat you. All they have to do is watch one Sam the Dude video and build Death Toll or mannequins. And the issue is that his AoEs and that his basic attacks his basic attacks already are AoEs, basically how they are. And if you build Death Tolls or mannequins, you can just clear waves, out heal your opponent, and it's almost really hard to kill an Osiris. And late game he just wins. So I ban Osiris in general because he's way too broken. So those are the three main gods: Nemesis, Bellona, and Osiris. Other gods that are counters are gods with leaps and are auto attack based. So gods like Kali, Set, Hoyi, and Heim. Heim's got his teleport and he's a hunter. Hoyi can leap over walls. Set's got his teleport. So the reason why gods with leaps and teleports are counters is simply because when you ult, they can use an ability to counter. They can use an ability to run away. So the way you would beat them is you'd have to fight them without your ult, get them to use their dash, or get them to use their leap first. Then you have to get up close to them using your one, and then you ult them. And that's quite hard, so if you can imagine, to fight them without your ult, you'd have to have a few items online. You'd have to be somewhat ahead or somewhat level, and then you'd have to have your one ready for when they dash. Then you have to ult them. So those kind of gods are really tough for mana. At the end of the day, say if you played less than 20 games on Duel as Vamana, I would encourage you just to play against these gods yourself and realize for yourself what's a counter and what isn't, because that's the best way you're going to learn. rather than just banning them straight away and never seeing for yourself. So an extremely tough god on duel is Ullr. He does a lot of burst early game and he's great late game. So he's a god that can burst you down and out DPS you. So he's got both. He's a brilliant early game god, one of the best, and he's a great late game god. So he's great all throughout. So I ban Ullrs simply because they're extremely tough to beat, especially if someone's a good Ullr. You know, they can easily beat you. And also he's got a leap in one of his abilities, so you can beat Ullrs, but they're quite tough. So I tend to ban Ullrs. He's one of the best gods in duel anyway, so there's hardly any gods that are better than Ullr on duel. Another god that I tend to ban is Skadi. So she's not necessarily a counter to Vamana. She actually hasn't got a leap or a dash per se, but she can burst you down like Ullr, and she can do a lot of DPS late game because she is a hunter. She's got cold earth that helps her with her DPS. So I tend to ban Skadi even though she's not necessarily a hard counter. She's just a really good god in duel, so I tend to ban her if I can. And some other gods are gods with leaps, and that's our auto attack based. So obviously you can't ban every single god, but the ones that are really tough are gods like Apollo. I ban Apollo's because he's got a dash and he's got a mez, so he can do a lot of damage to you whilst you haven't got your ult. And when you do have your ult, he can just dash away or he can just use his ult. So he's quite a tough god. So I tend to ban Apollo's because I think they're quite broken. Gods like Heimdallr and Hou-Yi, Heimdallr's got his teleport and Hou-Yi's got his dash too. So they're quite tough. However, you can't actually beat them late game. You just need to be really smart about it. It's just a bit of experience. You need to like get them to use their dash or their leap or their teleport whilst you haven't got your ult. And then you just chase them down, then you ult them. It's quite tough, but you can't beat them. It'll just take a bit of skill and a bit of practice to do. And auto attack gods that have dashes in general are quite tough, but they're not necessarily counters. Because if you can get them to use their dash, like let's say a Medusa, if you can get them to use their dash, so the big difference between a dash and let's say a leap or a teleport is that with a dash you can't go through walls, whereas with a leap or a teleport you can. So when Vamana's in his ult and they dash away, you can still try and catch up to them. However, if they leap across a wall, then you basically have to cancel your ult, and you know, because your ult won't last the whole duration of running around that wall. Plus, they can just run away anyway. So that's the big difference between a dash, and a leap. So as I mentioned, you can't ban all these gods. So don't be too disheartened if you come up against a god that's good against Vamana. However, Vamana is still fantastic in general. So he's good against mages and guardians. So Hebo is a tough god on duel. So is Poseidon, and Anubis is a god that a lot of people play. They're really good against them. Vamana's really good against them. Hebo's got his carpet, but he can't go through walls, and you can easily make him use his carpet beforehand. But you can destroy a Hebo late game as long as he's not fed. You can easily beat an Anubis late game because he falls off. You just build a bit of defense and a lot of damage. Especially with Death's Embrace now, you can actually out-sustain an Anubis in a fight late game. Poseidon too, you just build defense. If you're really struggling with mages late game, then it's a case of building 2 defense items as well as Frostbound. I know YouTubers like Sam the Dude and Rexy aren't a fan of building defense because they think it's a bit cheesy, but you know, you have to do what it takes to win. And if you're not necessarily a pro gamer like them that's been playing for years, then you need to do that. You just need to build 2 defense items and Frostbound to beat mages. So you actually beat most mages late game. Early game they're just a bit tough, but once you get a few items online and you can stay you know, up to them in farm, then you actually beat them. You beat most Guardians. Guardians in general aren't great in duel. I think one Guardian that is really good is Ymir, but even still, it takes a lot of skill to win as Guardians in general. You beat most Assassins, Hunters, and Warriors that don't have leaps and that aren't auto attack based. So let's say like a King Arthur. King Arthur isn't great on duel anyway, but let's say a Wukong and a Cuchulainn, they are good in duel, but you can beat them late game because they're not necessarily auto attack based. Speaking of Cuchulainns, in this game, this guy has went Cuchulainn, but he actually went Death's Toll, which is shocking for me. Like, Cuchulainn is a god that you base him around your abilities, and he's went Death's Toll and he's went Ichabod as well. So that's strange. This is the first time I've came up against an auto attack based Cuchulainn. It won't necessarily work. I'm still confident I'll beat him late game. But yeah, this is the first time I've come up against an auto attack based Cuchulainn. So let's just quickly talk about auto attack based mages and guardians. So an auto attack guardian, I would consider perhaps Sylvanas, Terra, and Ymir. Vamana absolutely destroys them late game because he can build Ichabod and he can build Frostbound, which slows their attack speed. So he absolutely destroys them. You just need to not get burst down before you hit your level 5. So those are the 3 auto attack based guardians that I can think of. And auto attack mages, or you know, hunter mages as they would say. So Freya, Ullr, Kronos, and Sol. I think there's another one too. So Kronos is the only real tough one that you'd come up against, simply because of his ult and he's got movement speed. You actually are really good against Kronos in duel in general. The thing is, they have to have like a few cards online before they do a lot of damage. So they're not that great early game, and also late game you destroy them because of your Frostbound and your Ichabod that slows their attack speed, and you can just out DPS them. So the mage hunters, they're a bit meh early game and they're a bit meh late game. So it's a bit of a weird one. They're extremely tough mid game, but as long as you can keep up with them on farm, then they shouldn't be a problem. But at the end of the day, you're only going to learn by actually playing them. I don't tend to ban mage hunters like Freya or Ullr or Kronos. Even though they are tough, you can still beat them. It just comes with experience, really. So on the next video, I'll talk about items and how items can help you, and what items you should build on Vamana, what situations, and what items are good against Vamana. But in this video, I'm going to specifically talk about gods in general. So Cuchulainn is a great early game god. He's ability based, but this guy's built in an auto attack based Cuchulainn. He went Death Toll and he went tier 1 bow, which gives him a lot of attack speed early game, which is a very interesting play for him. But I'm confident that late game I'll beat him, simply because of my ultimate and the way my ultimate scales with attacks or with auto attack damage. So my ultimate's great for like if you build attack speed, if you build even crit, but you shouldn't build crit on duel. That's for next video. So there in that fight, I went to get a Bull Demon simply so that he can't get it. And I actually pushed a wave first, so he ended up killing me there, but it's fine. I got the Bull Demon, so that he can't get it. It kind of delays the game a bit, so I can get more items online. As you can see, I'm ahead on gold and we're equal on XP at the moment. I just need to defend the Phoenix here. But he's already went in his beast form and he used his ult. So if he were to fight me, even though I haven't got my ult, I'm confident that I can beat him. He's also used his thorns, and I've still got my my shell, so it's fine. I'm confident that I can beat him. So there he has the back. Cuchulainn also can't dash over walls or through walls. and he's got like a small dash that's meant to just be damage based, where he knocks people, and he's got like a bit of a leap, but that's not really enough to that's not really enough to escape Vamana in his ultimate form. The reason why he beat me the last fight is because I was already low. I accidentally let the bull demon hit me with that slam on the floor. I thought I was out of the range, but he got me, and my health was extremely low. I would have easily beat him if I had more health and I had more. If I was able to dodge that move. But yeah, I'm quite comfortable at this moment. I'm comfortable in fighting him. I just want to clear all the camps and all the waves, and get him into a position that he doesn't want to be in. So right now, he really wants to fight me here. I'm just going to clear the wave because that's more important. And now I'm comfortable fighting him. So he's doing a lot of damage to me, but I've just used my ult. He uses thorns, which is crazy how quickly he got that back. But I'm just not hitting him in this. Why he's got thorns up, because he'll out DPS me. I'm using my shell, and I was able to burst him down there. And it really is curtains for this guy. The only way I would lose is if I mess it up myself. The cool thing about Vamana is that people hardly ever ban him. I've only ever seen him get banned once on Season 8. And people hardly ban him even in the previous seasons. So that's actually great. So if you can get good with him, you have an extremely good god on duel that people hardly ever ban. So right now, I'm just trying to get all the camps so I can hit level 20, and I can get my Death's Embrace. So I'm going to get this blue buff, but hopefully that's enough to upgrade my Death's Temper to Death's Embrace. Because once I build Death's Embrace, that's a massive power spike for me. I'm actually so close to hitting level 20. If you look on my XP bar, underneath my mana bar at the bottom, I'm really close to hitting it, but it just wasn't enough. I've got it now with this wave, and he's still level 18. He still has 2 levels before he hits level 20. I've just hit a massive power spike. I was able to get tier 1 katana as well. And I should be able to just run into his Phoenix, take his Phoenix, and more or less win the game. I'm going to get this speed buff for the speed and attack speed. And that should be it. I should be able to just win the game now. He got Bull Demon there, but I don't think that's enough for him to I mean, it's a good play by him. He got it so I can't get it, and it helps him take out the tower. But he won't be able to push the wave, simply because I'll be able to just out DPS him in a fight. And I've got good wave clear when I'm not in my ult. So right here, I've cleared the wave, and I'm actually gonna backdoor this Phoenix. Now, this might be considered a scummy move, but I can't see him in the map. So he actually went to my wave rather than coming to fight me. I think he hid around wall, so he doesn't have to fight me, and so he can clear my wave. So that's why I went for the Phoenix. If he was out in the open, I would have easily just fought him. So I got his Phoenix here, and I'm just looking to try and kill him. He does a lot of damage because he's good culling. He uses thorns here. But because I've got Death's Temper, I'm actually comfortable in fighting him whilst he's got his thorns up. And now his thorns are down for the next fight. I'm just going to ult the wave and the Titan. And if he wants to fight, I'll ult him too. So Vamana can actually hit him and the Titan with his ultimate form. And yeah, I should win the fight literally here. I've still got my shell. I'm just going to hit the Titan. And yeah, that's it. Stay tuned for my next video where I talk about items.